Hi everyone, welcome back to Storytime Recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the film from 2017, Berlin Syndrome. Without any further, let's get started. Claire, an Australian, travels to Berlin in search of a life experience that she is unable to have in her native country. She has chosen to take the risk and pursue her passion in another country even though she is self-aware enough to recognize how silly it sounds. Claire demonstrates how vulnerable and alone she is by trying to make friends with everyone she encounters as soon as she gets there. She spends her first night in Berlin on a rooftop with a bunch of strangers, and as daybreak arrives, Claire captures images of the city during the golden hour. The following day, Claire strolls across the city, stops at a bookshop to rest, and purchases a few souvenirs from a flea market. Reading a monograph about Gustav Klimt and her leaving, Claire meets Andy by chance. They have a pleasant moment together. He flirts with her, but she knows right through him. In the end, they wind up spending almost the whole day together. Claire explains to him that she is there to take pictures of GDR architecture with the intention of turning them into a book, but Andy finds this somewhat strange. He explains to her that he works at a sports college as an English teacher. That night, as he drove her back to the hostel, she informed him that she would be leaving for Dresden the next day. And just as she's about to get out of the car, he pauses and bids her farewell.
Cheers, Claire.
The following day, Claire appears hesitant to travel to Dresden as she had originally intended, so she searches for the bookstore where she first met him. To her surprise, Andy is there, and she finds him flipping through a Klimt monograph before striking up a conversation with him. In the subsequent scene, they're talking about her photography while enjoying a beer at a nearby bar. He is the next generation Berliner who doesn't seem too keen on the politics of East Germany. She can't tell that he might actually have some history connected to those times that have made him that way. They talk about that until he discovers a necklace with a wedding band on it. Claire's mother gave her the ring and told her that if she got into trouble, she could always sell it and go home. Later, the two of them are in his car as Andy is driving Claire to his apartment in an abandoned building. She sees right away how silent the place is since no one lives there anymore, and the building is crumbling apart. She notices that the doors don't open when they enter his apartment. Claire is glancing out of the window as Andy approaches her. They start kissing and getting undressed, then going to his bedroom to share a bed. After Andy tells her that he wishes they would stay there forever even if they still don't know each other, Claire also expresses her want for them to stay there forever as well. The following day, Andy is seen at work giving a lecture to high school students. He asks the students about the weekend reading they were expected to do, and he tells Franca to respond because she has obviously read the book and can answer the question well despite her poor English. While all of this is going on, Claire wakes up in the apartment, gets dressed, and then realizes that the doors are locked and that she cannot locate a key anywhere. While exploring the apartment, she discovers a locked room, red nail polish in the bathroom, and an old-school picture of Andy. Claire gets irritated at being confined to her apartment for the entire day, unaware that this is only the start of her problems. After work, Andy meets Peter and Jana, who invite him out for a drink. Andy declines their invitation, telling them he must meet someone else later because Peter is insistent. Andy returns home to find Claire making tea and informing him that she has lost the key to the property. She asks him whether he even left one for her, to which he replies he simply forgot to put it on the table. That night, they head to a club, and Claire continues to believe he is a good man. After sharing a night's sleep, he leaves a key for her on the dresser the next morning. When he leaves the flat, Claire gets up to start breakfast and notices there is another Klimt book in his kitchen. Opening it, she discovers a picture of a lady with the words "mind" written on her back. Naturally, that worries Claire out, so she looks for the identical word on her own back and discovers one there as well. She finds out right away that the key Andy left for her doesn't work when she tries it. Her only option is to take out her cell phone and charge it so she can make a help call, because the windows are also locked. Unfortunately, she discovers that Andy has removed her SIM card as soon as she powers up the phone. Suddenly realizing that she may be a prisoner rather than a guest at his residence, Claire grabs a chair and attempts to smash through a window, but acknowledges that he also considered that possibility, strengthening the glass. Waiting for Andy at the door, Claire is unable to leave as he returns, giving the impression that she is unaware of the situation. He ignores her cries for him to open the door and only starts speaking when he notices the mess through the glass. When Claire tries to calmly deal with him, he simply threatens to board them up if she tries to smash the windows again. Andy begins preparing supper as if everything were normal. When she tries to talk to him, he tells her that she should have stayed rather than leaving for Dresden. Claire responds that her statement about wanting to stay was made after they shared a bed and has no significance. After a while, Claire loses it and attempts to struggle with him to get the door open, but the psycho gets the better of her and tells her that nobody is listening. The following days, Andy carries on as if nothing had happened, visiting his father during one of his lectures. During the lesson, he gets bored and wants to look at the photos he took of Claire. He gets called out by his father for his views on East Germany, and after dinner they quarrel on trivial matters until Andy tells him he's met someone. When Andy tells his father that the new girl is Australian and the other one returned to Canada, his father questions why he always chooses tourist girlfriends. In the meantime, it is evident that he has been restrained her on the bed, where she is covered with plastic and has only a towel beneath her. Upon returning after a run one evening, he is observed placing his keys in a locker that holds all of her essential papers and belongings. In addition to releasing Claire from the handcuffs and showing her what he got her, Andy says he told his father about them and texted Claire's mother to check on her. Using her card to pay for beverages, Claire claims she's not good and that her parents will figure out where she is as she gets up, covered in pee.
But I'm not okay.
She finds blonde hair in the drain while taking a shower, indicating that she wasn't the only person to stay there. Afterwards, Andy is photographing her while holding her back to the bed. When she begs him to release her from his hold since she is unable to leave the house, he stores the keys in the locker and places it over the front door before leaving for work. Claire starts searching the apartment right once for a weapon or anything comparable to use, but she doesn't locate one until she looks beneath the sofa for a screwdriver. Andy is at work talking with Peter and Jana when he discovers that she is in possession of his cup. She apologizes and cleans it for him, touching his hand as she returns it, making him act strangely. Andy rubs his arm clean of her contact. Upon returning to the apartment, Claire starts putting the puzzle he purchased for her. As soon as she sees the keys in his palm, she forces him to sit down and assist her. When Andy lowers one hand to place a piece on the board, Claire uses the screwdriver to shackle him to the table. She then takes the keys and flees the apartment. When she reaches the door, Andy pulls out the screwdriver and chases after her down the steps. Andy smashes the door on Claire's hand as she tries to escape, breaking her fingers. As Claire passes out from the pain, he returns her to the floor while tending to his own wound. When Andy visits his father later, he learns that his mother called to inquire about him. At this point, we discover that Andy struggles with motherhood because she backed off and abandoned the two of them. When Claire tells him one night how much she misses her mother, he reminds her that because she has him, there's no use in missing something she can never get back. After snapping some more pictures of her, Andy takes them into the closed room where Claire hears odd sounds coming from. Later, when he's at work, Claire's going to pick the room's lock, and he'll undoubtedly discover that the paper clip inside broke. While teaching a gym class at work, Andy watches one of the students, Franca, exercising. He has a strange feeling when he looks at her, and the girl realizes he's also seeing her. One evening as he closes the locker, his injured hand shows the effects of time passing after removing the scissors from it. Claire has already spent a considerable amount of time behind doors. As Andy cuts Claire's nails with the scissors and removes the bandage from her injured hand, he assures her that they work as a team and that he would never injure her in the worst way possible. Shortly after, he's giving her a wash in the shower when Franca pulls up to the apartment building and the door is open for her. Andy holds Claire's mouth when she knocks on the door and threatens to kill Franca if she yells. When he steps outside to speak with the girl he's interested on, Claire appears behind him. Andy belittles Franca for showing any interest in him after telling her that Claire is his girlfriend. He sends Franca, who saw him staring at her, away. Andy tells Claire her name, turns her around, and trims her hair before taking another picture of her. When he realizes that he is having trouble opening the room, Claire becomes afraid that he could do something. One evening, Andy returns to the flat and gives Claire a gift of underwear, which she is forced to model for him. After a few minutes of acting like she's going to fight him, the guy gets upset and asks her if she can't just act normal. Claire firmly tells him that he's abnormal, and he beats her up. Later, when she's getting dressed, she discovers nail clippings under the bed because Andy went to sleep at his dad's house because he got mad at her. In the meantime, there is a power outage at the apartment, and because it is already winter and snow is starting to fall, it gets chilly quickly. Andy tries to wake his father the following morning. When Andy discovers his father has passed away, he cleans his home and finds some toenail clippers. When he finds them, he uses them to cut his father's toenails while Claire is trying to remain warm and paints her own nails at the same time. She can feed herself because the gas stove is still operational, while being held captive in the flat without her jailer. Andy spends a few days in his father's house tending to his corpse while Claire is left alone to wonder when she will be able to escape, but also when he will return. She keeps discovering items that have belonged to the others who came before her. Andy returns to the flat after finishing up and arranging everything at his dad's place. Claire was shocked to see him because she had assumed he would never return. He tells Claire that his father passed away, and she tries to console him. They appear to get along in reality and sleep together as Christmas and New Year's Eve draw near. In fact, Andy tells her that she is perfect and even buys her some books as a gift. When Claire asks him how he chose her, he replies that he just happened to see her pause on the street and glance at something. She then questions how he selected the other female before her, and when he claims there wasn't, she corrects him by pointing out that she is aware that isn't the case.
No.
He replies that he doesn't think about her when Claire asks whether he still does. She shares some of her childhood stories with him during their talk, but he doesn't seem interested. Later, he presents her with his father's dog. He takes her for a walk in the woods one day, and she doesn't try to run away because he's got an axe with him. After a short while, he prepares to kill her when all of a sudden, the youngster cries after them and calls over to ask for assistance. Andy rushes to check on his injured brother. Claire walks up to the youngster who called them over and begins advising him to get her assistance as she is having problems. Sadly, the youngster is uneducated in English and becomes enraged with her for reaching out to touch him. Andy grabs the axe once more, calls the kid's mother back, and gets Claire to come back to him before escorting her back to the car and putting her in the trunk. Afterwards, Andy takes the puppy away from Claire and lets it go, informing her it escaped after realizing how much Claire loves it. Andy is a little nervous when he realizes how many people are at Peter and Jana's party on New Year's Eve. When Claire eventually opens the locked room door, she discovers his photo album containing every shot he ever took of her. Claire discovers that the strange noises he heard originated from a massage chair that reclines. She discovers another photo album next to it that contains pictures from his early years. At the end of that album, she discovers pictures of the female he had imprisoned in there before her. As the new year approaches, Claire hears fireworks outside. Andy isn't enjoying himself at the party, so he heads to the kitchen to wash the dishes, where he strikes up an odd conversation with Jana. He asks her why she throws herself at him and other men, and Jana tells him to go because she's scared and upset. When Andy leaves the party, he notices another tourist girl outside and attempts to talk to her too. After teasing him for his little phrasing error, she gets a call from her friend informing her that their cab has arrived. He presumably looks at other women as he drives home in search of a fresh victim. Claire is able to get the attention of the person she sees in the apartment across from her at the same moment. The man dashes to the flat, but just as he tries to open the door, Andy reappears and gives him a blow to the head. He slaps the man again to kill him, and while he's on the ground, he gets Claire to help him clean up and wrap the body in plastic. Shortly after, he removes the body, places it in a trash can, covers it with gasoline, and sets it on fire. The apartment is where Claire witnesses the fire. The following scene shows Andy finishing up the apartment's cleaning and boarded up windows to prevent her from doing something similar in the future. After reading about Claire's disappearance in the local newspaper, Andy informs her to pack up everything since he is going to have the apartment fumigated. She watches him check Frank a book before she packs things. She gives herself a burn to deflect his gaze, and then she walks to the restroom to get some burn cream. The notebook is hidden under the sink by Claire. Later, After gathering all of her belongings and the papers he is marking, he leaves her there and heads to the basement to switch off the apartment's water supply. He gives his students, including Franca, their graded notebooks the following day. She opens hers and discovers a picture of Claire that she was able to sneak in the night before. When the girl understands what that implies, she requests to take it with her to the bathroom, but regrettably, a picture falls out of her notebook and is discovered by a few other students. Franca rides her bike to his residence after realizing she dropped the picture. When Andy eventually receives the photo from the students back in the classroom, he becomes quite upset and quickly drives home. When Andy gets to the apartment building, he notices that there is an open window in Franca's bike. Upon entering the yard, he notices that the girls had managed to open the box, so he dashes upstairs to see if Claire is still there. Andy searches the flat but doesn't find them there. However, he follows the sounds coming from upstairs, prepared to attack. Claire summons him back down the moment he steps foot in the apartment on the floor above. Andy searches inside for her, but she runs away from him, waiting for him to go furthermore into the flat. She once calls out to him in his private room so he can see her locking him inside the apartment. Claire locked him inside the apartment. After taking all of her documents out of the box, she gets to the other apartment to get Franca, and assists her in getting out of a cabinet where she hid. Comforts her for not noticing it sooner. The movie ends with Claire driving around Berlin and enjoying the breeze on her skin. It's likely that she was stuck in that flat for a year before she was eventually set free. Thanks for watching, and remember to turn on your notifications to watch more movie recaps like this one.